Welcome to Sister Wives, Season 18, Episode 11, Leaving the Nest.
No gloves or crying this time?
I don't know. I am so worked up about this video. Hold on. Do we look okay? I feel like we're really...
I look great.
I feel like we're really low in the frame.
Wonderful.
No, I'm so worked up with this video, and I made a TikTok about it, and then people came for me in the TikTok, and I'm so worked up about it, so I'm going to have a little bit of extra energy this episode that's probably unnecessary. So this is an episode about Logan going to school, and a big section of it is also about them starting the process of getting the cul-de-sac, which once again reminds me what a miracle it was that they were able to buy these houses, okay, because the houses were essentially $400,000 each. They got 4 of them, 1.6 million. Of course, they had the TLC money, but the TLC money was not 1.6 million.
Well, that went to convertibles and Mary's house that she didn't need.
Okay. So I'm really worked up about it because I feel like the nuance of this conversation has been lost about stuff. But anyway, so we start off with it's a long episode that did not need to be a long episode because the way it went was...
Like most of the long episodes.
Yeah. So Logan is looking at 2 schools. He's looking at SUU, Southern Utah University in Cedar City, which we know because...
They have the only pizza place worth going to in Utah.
Well, there's also...
I don't know. That's the only pizza place we've been to in Utah also, so
yes.
That might have something to do with it.
So it's off of the 5, which is the road that you take to go from basically Southern California up to Salt Lake City. And we also have driven by on that same path to go to Wyoming a few times. And so one time, you know, I am a Yelp fanatic. And so when we're going anywhere, I'm looking at all the cities along the way and I'm Yelping all of the restaurants. And we will plan our entire trip around like one place that has like 4.7 stars and somebody says is the best mac and cheese they've ever had. Like we're like, that's it. The whole rest of the day, nothing matters. We're going to this place and having the mac and cheese. That's how we do it. So we stopped at Cedar City at a little pizza place. Great pizza. And then they had dessert that was like pizza dough with like chocolate and stuff drizzled on it. That's all we needed. I don't know if it's the best. I don't know if it's even all that good. I just know that it was very exciting for us because it's the middle of a very long, like 13-hour drive.
Yep.
Anyway, and we stopped in that town and everything. So we're like, oh, yay, Southern Utah University. The other university he's considering is UNLV. It's really painful because Cody's going on and on and on about how he'd like his kids to stay at home. He'd like them to live there until they're married.
This is before when he had relationships with older kids, as opposed to now, which he doesn't.
Yeah, now he's like, get these kids out of the house because it's inconvenient for him. Get these dogs out of the house. Of course, that is only for Janelle. We never heard him. I didn't even really hear him say anything about that with... What's funny is it all came down to Gabe and Garrison, but Gwen's the same age. Aren't Gabe and Gwen the same age as each other?
You're asking the wrong person.
I think they're like within, they call them the twins, right? And so I don't get why it was a whole big thing about how Gabe had to get out. But was Gwen self-quarantining? I don't really understand that. I think it was just because they said something to Robin that he absolutely flipped out. But, oh no, you might have to close the door. Our little dog, who you might hear barking.
It's the roid rage.
He is little, and he was very, very sick a couple weeks ago, and it was devastating, and we thought he was on his last limb. We had to rush him to the emergency vet, and they basically said everything was wrong with him and gave him steroids. He had this cough, but they said that he had an enlarged heart, he had bronchitis, he had collapsed trachea, all that.
A mass somewhere else.
A mass, all this stuff. Well, then the next Monday they called. They said, okay, we've had a more advanced radiology look at it. We think it's just a collapsed trachea. We'll keep him on the steroids. And he wasn't getting better, so we gave him more steroids. Well, he like bulked up, and he's gotten really aggressive. He doesn't bite.
No.
He doesn't, but what he does is what he's doing now.
Every 5 minutes telling you he wants his dang food.
Yeah, because he had to start having more steroids. He had to have more food to go with the steroids.
He didn't have more food, but he got food more often.
And he got some peanut butter to go with the pills, to hide the pills. And now he is this little enraged tiny dog who's like, feed me! And so he'll just bark just for hours on end. And we're like, stop. You've never done this. We don't know. We've got to start over with training. Anyway, why don't you close the door so I don't think people can hear. So anyway, so he's gonna go to, so back to the actual show that you're here to watch. Logan's gonna go to SUU, Southern Utah University, with a couple of his sisters. He went with Maddie, he went with Aspen. I don't know who else went. And then he went to UNLV with Janelle and Cody to look at that campus. There's a whole big family discussion about where he's going to go. But he has told everyone, wherever I go, I'm moving out. Like, I'm going to the dorms. I'm going to be a college student. I'm going to focus on that. I know
I'm not going to be first dad anymore.
I'm not going to be first dad anymore. Maddie goes, he's my best friend. I'm going to miss him so much. And I was like, so sad. But she says, I want him to go wherever he's going to be happiest. Janelle would like him to go to Southern Utah University because she considers faith to be very important. And Cody's like, yeah, but Mormons don't like us. And this is what I find confusing, is that they have repeatedly referred to themselves as Christian, but then they'll be really like, but we're not Mormon.
Especially Robin.
I am, just to be clear, I'm not here to judge that. We're not here to say that they're not or they are.
We 100% don't care.
But what I don't get is that they would say they're so adamant, Cody at least is, about being, no, we're not Mormon. I'm like, but you share more in common, like more text and more beliefs in common with Mormons than you do with like Catholics or Protestants.
Especially now that he's a monogamous.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, definitely now that he's a monogamous, it's, as far as I know, it's very, very similar. So I only find that confusing because it seems to be something that they trot out when they either are Christian and they're just like every other Christian, or they're not Mormon and it kind of depends on the moment. And that's what I find inconsistent, is like, do they view themselves as part of the same faith tradition as Protestants, but not Mormons? But then it's like, I feel like they've kind of jumped over, because Mormons and Protestants, all the things that they differ on are the same things that Protestants and AUB, I'm going to use AUB, they call themselves Mormon fundamentalists, but I always get pushed back when I say it. That is a word from straight from Cody's mouth when he described their faith.
And their fitness center. And
their fitness center and all that. Anyway, so they have this whole big discussion on how we're not Mormons. Mormons are really prejudiced against us, which I do not. That does seem to be consistent. I've heard many people, and I've heard many Mormons in my comments be like, they have nothing to do with us. They are not part of our faith tradition. Do not say that they are Mormons. And I'm like, okay, you guys are really clear about that. So I do get why they say they want to be around Mormons. And Logan even shares that, he's got pushback from people who, whereas maybe in Vegas, because it's so dispersed, people are, dispersed. Well, it is dispersed. It's a big town. Diverse, that they kind of don't, it's just more of like, oh, like many of my friends, you grew up in a house that looks different than my own, I guess, is sort of the thing. Cody's really pushing for UNLV because he feels like Logan will stay at home and continue to raise his siblings. Logan says, I will not be doing that. I would be middle-aged before I could get out of the house, which is true, because Truly is still at home. Mm. And Savannah only recently left, so if he had waited till Savannah in real life, that would have been like a year ago. So Cody and Janelle are going back and forth about religion. They're worried about, do they instill enough of their beliefs in him? They go up to SUU, and Logan's really excited because it's an outdoor town. It's in sort of an outdoor area. There's climbing everywhere. There's lots of outdoor activities. And Aspen's like, it's a little hick town. It's a little hick college or whatever. But he's like, one of the big advantages of being up here is I'd be farther away from my family. Family wouldn't be as much of a distraction, which is very, very legit. Okay. The other storyline that's happening is they're talking about Mona, the real estate agent, and they go look at the model home, which is a huge, Janelle's, Christine says she can hear angels singing, which seems to be a reoccurring way that they pick houses. Angels are singing. It's mentioned that Mary has very expensive taste. Janelle is very concerned with the cost. She says, I know what our budget is, and I'm really concerned this is going to be more than our budget can handle. And that they have very little time. So this is a builder who is building these model homes. The way it works with these is they have set plans. And you pick from the plans. I mean, maybe they could have bought out from underneath them or something, but that's the deal with this neighborhood. And you can add things on and you can take things away, but you're not designing the house from scratch. And so I just need to mention that because sometimes people are like, well, Mary couldn't have put a 2-bedroom house. I'm not saying she should have put a 2-bedroom house in. I'm just saying that there were more expensive models and there were less expensive models, and Mary herself says that she wants a more expensive model. We'll get to that.
But that's okay, because Janelle's kids don't need to eat.
They get it. I'll get into that.
Definitely give Mary a wet bar and have Janelle's kids struggle. Because they're all separate families, except what they tell us all the time is they're one big happy family. So maybe money should go to feeding the kids first and housing Mary and her one child second.
So this episode, we are talking about what is happening in this episode. So when I brought up this episode on TikTok, a lot of people were like, well, what about LuLaRoe? That was not happening now. Well, what about when she sold the house? That has not happened. I'm talking about this specific episode. So in addition to looking at these houses, and once again, I am overwhelmed with what a miracle it was that they got this cul-de-sac. Because they keep saying, there's a lot of interest, which I kind of roll my eyes at a little bit, because when they tried to sell them 5 years later, there certainly wasn't a lot of interest. But right now, there's a lot of interest. The builder might want to sell. I'm thinking...
What year was this in reality? Do you know?
I don't know offhand.
Okay.
Early teens.
Okay. Okay.
I'm trying to remember. I think it started around, it had to be early teens, like 2000 teens, early, like 11, 12, 13. I'll look it up. It used to be really easy to see on the app, and then they changed apps. Okay, the other thing they're going to go to is they're going to go to a local jeweler who's going to be their manufacturer for Sister Wives, which is...
No, for my sister wife's closet.
What did I say? Oh, for my sister wife's closet. So first off, I want to tell you, I've made jewelry. It's just a hobby, but I have friends who produce it. And you would not go to a local jeweler to make your jewelry as a manufacturing level.
But you would go there if you're dumb and don't know how to do it, like Robin.
Yeah, so that is not the way you would do that. Normally you would have it, you would have production material. And the stuff would be designed in a certain way so that it could be produced easily. This is more of the equivalent of me going down to my dry cleaners who adjust clothing and being like, what if I pay you to make these clothing for me? That's not, it's not a matter of quality, because I'm sure they could do a great job. It's more a matter of the amount that you would spend would eat up any profits, which seems to be just what happened. So they're going in, they're like, I really just think I'm not going to like these designs. I'm going to inside think that these are dumb, but I won't say anything.
Turns out they were right. Super dumb.
So to me, it looked like the way that they had manufactured this ring was with lost wax casting, based on the pits in the design, which I don't think is the best. That's how you normally do custom designs. If I wanted to design a custom ring, you make it out of wax to match the exact stones and stuff like that. Now, I'm not a manufacturing expert. It's just, all I keep thinking is they can't possibly be making this for a low enough price point to be able to sell it.
It's like in any industry, it's like going to a custom designer instead of a manufacturing plant.
Yes. So they show these rings. It's 2 S's, and they're 2 separate rings, and when you slide them together, they're called stack rings. It would make a W, so it would be for sister, wife, or super. And they start talking about how, maybe best friends would give them to each other. And I'm like, I'm not opposed to giving my best friend jewelry.
What is this, junior high?
But I would give her nice jewelry. I would get some nice, I wouldn't just get an S and be like,
have you ever given a friend jewelry?
I bought jewelry with...
That's a no.
I bought... Stop it. I bought and I've given jewelry to friends because we're jewelry makers. So we did that. It was cheap and easy. And I've been with friends and bought matching jewelry, but it was because we liked the jewelry, not because we wanted matching jewelry.
Or husband. Those were the same husband, right?
Yeah, we did not have the same husband. But the idea is that it's just weird because it's ugly. The core issue is it's ugly.
I think it very well represents Robin's taste.
It does. It does represent her taste. So they have all this. They're so excited. They've got goosebumps and chills. It's so amazing. I'm going to track it. I don't know that we ever see this dude again, because I'm guessing what he, at some point he said, is that he owns a business. I bet you at some point he goes, the amount I need to charge you to do this for my time is this. And they're like, well, we can't resell that. And he's like, that's not my problem. I'm not, you guys are idiots. And he gets out of the business. Because this is right now this is a great deal for him.
Yeah.
He gets, you know, anyway. So they go to a Mexican restaurant. I'm like, this must be their favorite food. I love Mexican food, so I cannot complain. It's just funny because this season 18 that we're watching, is all salsa bravo. And now they're at another place. So they're at a restaurant. They're sitting down, and Janelle explains to us what earnest money is. Earnest money is money that you put down, and within 30 days they have to have financing. And she's like, here's the deal. We need to put down earnest money to get these. The risk is we might not get financing, in which case we'll lose the earnest money. We later on find out it's about $5,000. That's pretty standard, isn't it?
It probably was back then.
Is it a little more now?
I would think. But
I
don't know. It's been a while since we bought a house. We've just been spending money on all the things for the house.
I know.
Like heating and water.
Our water is doing well.
And everything.
Janelle is worried about the commitment. Cody goes, we're doing great with this network marketing business. And I was like, what is a network marketing business? And so I had to look it up. And
it's code for MLM.
It's what they call it. So what it means is when you use your
marketing. When
you use your network to sell stuff. And I did some Googling around, and apparently at this time they were using, it was Live or Live or Live, L-I-V. I can read. And it was that green water that you see them drinking all the time. And that's where Cody got his free... You're going to go take care of the dog?
We'll see.
The dog is still barking. He's going to try to go discourage him and maybe put him in the laundry room for a bit. Okay, so he's gonna hurt his little doggy vocal cords with all that barking. So the free convertible that he got, which was not, it was basically what they did is they gave him the right to lease it. So he did not need to get it, and it was not free. But he's like, we're doing pretty good with this, and of course they have the TV show. I don't know. I've heard a lot of estimates of what they've made. I've never heard it quoted from either them, TLC, or a producer. What I've mostly heard is people saying, based on the budget for Sister Wives from TLC, which I'm not sure how they got that number either, they have estimates of what they think they were making, which was quite a bit of money. I mean, I certainly... What is that?
That's a foghorn.
We're not going to use a foghorn in my house. It'll make us all deaf. So this is where they start getting into the money. And so they all talk about it, and Janelle is very concerned about the money. She knows the budget. She thinks it's going to be very tight. She's not sure.
Well, you know who else is concerned about the money and getting more of it for herself? Mary.
Robin. Let's not forget, Robin was very quiet in this discussion, but what came up was clearly, I'm going to focus on the three original, Christine, well, mostly just Janelle and Mary is really where this discussion comes, because they're the main two who discuss this. And this is clearly long-time hurts and other issues. So when we saw the show begin, it was stated that they all have the same budget, which means that Mary and her one child and Janelle and her 6 children had a similar budget. We know that Janelle and Christine bought everything in bulk. Janelle worked, Christine took care of the kids.
And Mary bought nice things.
And then they shared, and they talked extensively about things like the kids have to rotate out to get to new shoes. They have to do this. And Mary just flat out says, no, I have a lot more resources. We go out to eat a lot. We go out and do stuff a lot. That's how Cody and I like to live. They talk about how she's expensive taste, all of that. So I'm already annoyed with Mary. So they're all talking about, are they going to do this houses? And Mary immediately starts crying. And she's like, boo-hoo-hoo. I don't want to do the houses because I know people are going to give me problems about how I spend my money. And and so Janelle kind of is like, I know what this is about. And she's like, when we moved to Vegas, I was worried about feeding my family. And Mary insisted she had to have a big house with a pool, which is true. Janelle took a smaller house so that it would be cheaper, and Mary took a bigger house. And a lot of people just get really mad when I bring this up, but here's the deal. It is either all one family and all of these kids are important and all these kids should have access to the same resources, or they are 3 separate families, in which case cut the bull crap and I don't want to hear about it. Janelle and Cody make the most money. And a lot of people are like, well, Mary shouldn't get less money than she makes. Okay, so then I guess by your justification, Christine should not get any money because as far as I know, she only worked part-time, sometimes as like a census taker or something. So she should stay home with all of the kids and feed them. And she homeschooled them for years before they started going to public school. She should do all that and she should get nothing back. She should her kids should just starve to death. That's the logic. Janelle's kids should starve to death. Robin and Mary's kids should be good or something like that. I'm not even really including Robin in this because a lot of this stuff predates all of this. But I know I'm so worked up, and I'm not against people having arguments. Like, no, I don't think Mary should have been living in a shoebox. I don't think she should have had the world's smallest kitchen. She should have been living in an apartment.
Well,
but
by the way things are going, she definitely should have been basement wife.
They haven't even discussed the budget, and already she is crying about how I don't want people, having opinions. And Janelle is like, my kids, I was worried about feeding them and you had to have a pool. And Mary goes, I'm sorry that I took something that you felt was yours. And it's like, no, she's saying that this is a family.
What an incredible box.
So like, okay, so then they're not really your kids. This is not like Cody ran out and had an affair. Like they specifically got married with the intention of being polygamous. So this is something that always came. And then whenever it gets brought up, she's like, you're just punishing me for not having more kids. And I've said it a million times. I have infertility. We were supposed to have 2 other kids that we lost in miscarriage because of infertility problems. I think about those kids every day. I am heartbroken. I am heartbroken for Mary. But that's not the same thing as she should be able to have as much money as she wants to make up for it. And so
especially when they're struggling to feed some of the other kids.
Some of the kids. Now, the houses that they're going to move into, even the base model was incredibly appropriate. But right off the bat, they haven't even started talking about a budget. She's already crying and she's like, well, what if I want a wet bar? What if I want a big deck? I can't have it because somebody else feels that their kids need more. That's what she's saying. And I'm like, yes, if it's the difference between you getting a wet bar and some of the other kids eating, then yes. If it's about them getting braces or having shoes, yes, like guaranteed right off the bat, her child at this point is supposed to leave for college within a year. If she gets a 4-bedroom house, it's a mansion to her. It would be the same size kitchen across the board. They don't have different size kitchens. Living room, a lot of this stuff is basically the same size. She's already said she has expensive taste. She likes really nice things. They fight about the fact that Mary likes nicer stuff, but it lasts longer. I don't get into that. Now, just to be clear, in the end, the houses end up being the same, the price-wise, and I think Mary paid for the difference. In the end, I don't have a problem. I do have a problem here because what ended up happening was she cried until finally she says, I think this should be a decision between Cody and I, and no one else should be able to have the input. To me, there's a direct line between her crying and like boo-hoo-hoo and mentioning her infertility into negotiating into a position where it's just between her and Cody, who likes to spend a lot of money, so that Christine and Janelle don't have any input. And to me, that is a continuation of their cycle. Robin shut up during all of this, which is good, because if she had stuck her big nose into it, I don't say chin, into it, eyebrows into it, I would have had an absolute field day with the gal who just joined, who has never had a job.
But she's got to explain it to us.
But see, this is where she knew that she could just sit back and let Mary take all the heat. And then Christine, who's the crap sister wife, according to Cody, comes in and apologizes to Mary if she's ever felt like she's less than because she has less kids. And my thing is, I'm just thinking, are all of the kids' needs met to the same level? And if they're not, there's a problem with this family structure. And no one's telling Mary she needs to have less. Like if Mary and her child had to share a room, that would be less. If they have a 4-bedroom house so that Mary can then have a craft room and a bedroom, she gets significantly more than all the other families who don't have that. Of course, no one is talking about, and Robin didn't do this in front of everyone, Robin got an extra room so that Cody could have an office, so he's always there, which we only found out recently in episode 18. So after all the crying and hand wringing and all of this and all these old hurts about Mary getting more money and Janelle's kids not being able to, Janelle and Christine's kids not being able to eat, and many of the kids have talked about eating day-old bread and days-old donuts and like expired bread and stuff because they had so little money, which is, that's why I'm saying like they legitimately were struggling with money. This wasn't like, I get 15 dresses and you get 14 dresses. This is like, I want my kids to eat and I want a pool. Is literally what she said. And so anyway, you can disagree with me.
And you can be wrong. We don't care.
It'll break my heart, but if I didn't make my point, then I didn't make my point. I judge it according to the episode. Now, in three or four episodes, I might be defending Mary for stuff, but it doesn't make the path, like, we got to deal with each thing as it comes, and then later on, if things change, which they do, and Cody screws her over with the money, I will absolutely be there to defend her in that case. Okay. So it gets brought up that if Christine wants to go on vacation, which was to visit her dad, she needs to save her grocery money, which I'd like to know how she's going to do that when she's feeding 6 kids. Mary cries and says, you only have one child, he's going to leave soon, so I deserve more. That's my impression. In the end, they decide they are going to do it. They go out to the cul-de-sac, they each pick their lots. It goes Robin, Mary, Janelle, Christine, according to mine, or I guess Robin, Mary, Janelle, Christine, whatever. That's important later on because of where they decide they're going to start building. Obviously, they start building on the side who has the best financing and has a pre-approved loan, right?
I don't know.
That is not how it happens. They start on Robin's side.
Oh, of course they do.
Who's the Robin and Mary who are having the hardest time getting, and Robin and Mary who are the ones who are the slowest to turn in their stuff, and Robin and Mary who keep going out to the site. That's what we see. That is also what ticked me off, is Mary keeps going out to the site every single day, interrupting the foreman, slowing him down, and asking for changes. And it's like, that's what I mean by entitled, and, you know. Anyway, they pick it out. They all write a check for $5,000 from their personal bank account, which, I mean, I don't even know what that means, because none of them are,
anyway,
right now, none of them are working. And then they go and they tell the kids, and the kids are devastated. And Hunter just says, is this really going to happen, or is this another one of your big fishtails? And I was like, I have not seen Hunter be wrong, so I'm not going to disagree, but it does make me wonder, how often has this happened in the past?
Simmer down there, Johnny Appleseed.
The kids don't believe it. The kids are just basically saying, you say this stuff all the time and it never happens. Is it really going to happen this time? Blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, wow. There's a lot in that they didn't explain to us that would have been a great follow-up question.
And then Logan goes to,
and then
after all the pressure, he
decides he's going to go to UNLV.
Yep.
And I've been on a UNLV. When I was getting my master's degree, there was a gal who, an amazing professor, I shouldn't call her a gal, who was doing amazing research in the same area that I was doing my master's research. And so I had went and talked to her. And I really thought the campus was cool. I considered going there and getting my doctorate, but I decided that I didn't want to work in academia because
you wanted to have a life.
I wanted to have, yeah, truthfully. Two different times. One time I considered going to UCSB to get a co-doctorate in geochemistry, and it would have been computer modeling of magma systems. So it'd be geochemistry and computer science. And I didn't do that because everyone in my geology department was there 16 hours a day and then would be gone for months for research, and I decided I didn't want that. And then years later, I almost went and get my doctorate in human motor control and learning, or how people acquire skills, which is related to my coaching. And I also didn't do it then because, one, I was burned out, and then two, we were getting married, and so I had someone else to consider. And then, yeah, I just didn't think academia was for me. So, anyway, I've been on the campus. It's a lovely campus. I totally wasn't turned off by the campus. Big. It was really big. I went on the weekend, like on a Sunday, so it was like empty. But, yeah, so thanks so much for joining us. I'm sorry I got so worked up. I apologize. And I will see you later. Bye.